Welcome to the It Factor. We're Jemmy and I, exploring a new blog post by Mr. Len Kaplan, CEO of CDML, a managed service provider in Queens, NY, offering network management, voice over IP, unified communications as a service, cybersecurity, compliance, infrastructure as a service, cloud solutions, and Microsoft 365 and Azure solutions. If you're a small business owner or manage IT for a growing organization, this episode is for you.
Yeah, and to really set the stage here, I want you to just imagine going to bed on a Friday night. You lock the doors, your alarm is set, and your company's network is perfectly secure.
Right. Sounds nice and peaceful.
Exactly. But by 2 a.m., an automated script halfway across the world reads a newly published vulnerability on some dark web forum. By 2:05 a.m., that script has cross-referenced the vulnerability with your specific firewall model, written a custom skeleton key, and quietly bypassed your perimeter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and by the time you wake up and pour your Saturday morning coffee, you are completely locked out of your own business.
Okay, that is a totally terrifying scenario. And, I mean, the scariest part is that we aren't talking about science fiction anymore, are we? This is the reality of modern business infrastructure.
Absolutely. It's happening right now.
So today's deep dive is centered on a brilliant, frankly eye-opening article titled AI in Cybersecurity, When Vulnerabilities Move from Weeks to Hours by Len Kaplan. And our mission today is to cut through all the tech jargon and figure out how artificial intelligence has fundamentally shattered the old timeline of cyber attacks.
Right, and what small businesses actually need to do about it without getting, completely overwhelmed.
Exactly. Oh, and real quick, before we get into the weeds here, if you find today's insights helpful, please take a second to click that thumbs up button. So to really understand this shift, we kind of have to look back at how the cybersecurity game used to be played, right?
Yeah, because cyber threats have always been a reality, obviously. But the tempo, the actual speed of it was entirely different.
I always think of the old method of cybersecurity patching, like fixing a leaky roof. Like if a software company found a flaw, they would announce a patch. You, as the IT manager, knew about the leak, you put a bucket under it, and you had a few weeks, maybe months, to call a roofer before the heavy rainy season started.
That is a perfect analogy. There was a grace period. And that grace period only existed because the criminals were human.
Right. They had to do the work manually.
Exactly. When a patch was released, a human hacker had to download it, reverse engineer the code, figure out the original flaw, and then write the malicious code to exploit it. It was really painstaking technical work. It was a race, sure, but it was a marathon.
But the article points out that AI has basically turned that marathon into a 100-meter dash. AI models are being used to analyze that software, find the flaws, and write those exploits in, hours. So the leaky roof isn't a slow drip anymore, it's a sudden flash flood.
A literal flash flood, yeah.
But wait, let me push back on this for a second. Because every vendor on Earth is using AI as a buzzword right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really that fast now, or is this just, theoretical panic to sell more security products?
That is a very fair challenge, but we are not talking about theoretical panic here. Kaplan's article points to incredibly concrete data, specifically Microsoft's June 2026 Patch Tuesday.
Okay, for the business owners listening who might not be deep in the IT trenches, what exactly is Patch Tuesday?
It's a long-standing industry ritual. Basically, on the second Tuesday of every month, Microsoft releases a massive bundle of security updates for Windows, Office, and all that stuff. Now, in June 2026, they released patches for nearly 200 separate vulnerabilities.
Wow, 200 all at once. That sounds like a nightmare for an IT team.
Oh, it is. But here is where the reality of AI hits hard. For several of those critical weaknesses, public exploit code was already available on the internet on the exact same day the patches dropped.
Wait, let me make sure I'm following. Microsoft releases the cure, and the same day, hackers are already passing around the weaponized disease. How is that physically possible?
Because the AI is using the cure as a treasure map. When a vendor releases a patch, an AI model instantly compares the old vulnerable code with the new fixed code. It spots the difference, what programmers call the delta.
Oh, I see. So it just looks at what changed.
Exactly. By analyzing that delta, the AI instantly understands exactly how the door was left unlocked. It cross-references millions of lines of code in seconds, doing weeks of human trial and error, and just outputs a ready-to-use exploit script.
So the flash flood is literally cresting over the banks before the IT guy has even had a chance to, read the memo about the sandbags.
Exactly. And that brings us to the core vulnerability for most businesses. Kaplan points out that the failure isn't usually a lack of technology, it's human friction. He calls it the response gap.
The response gap. Okay, let's break that down. If the attacks are happening in hours, the gap must be the time it takes for a human being to actually hit the update button,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, it's that dangerous space between what needs to happen and what actually happens. Think about it. When a patch drops, an IT manager can't always just install it blindly. They have to test it. What if the patch breaks the legacy accounting software?
Or it crashes the server running the
Oh,
warehouse. Yeah. They had to schedule downtime, usually on a weekend.
right. But the AI hacker doesn't care about your change control approval process. The AI doesn't wait for the weekend. So the attacker is operating in minutes, and the defender is operating in days or weeks.
And inside that gap is where companies just get utterly destroyed. But I want to pivot here because a lot of people listening grew up buying a CD-ROM of McAfee or Norton, right? Doesn't standard basic antivirus catch these exploits?
We have to completely dismantle that comfort. Basic antivirus operates on known signatures. Think of it like a spell checker. It's great at finding exactly misspelled words because it checks against a dictionary.
But what happens when the attacker isn't using a known misspelled word?
Then the spell checker is useless. Modern AI-driven threats are like grammatically perfect sentences that just happen to tell devastating lies. The spell checker sees perfect grammar and ignores it. Modern attacks don't even look like malware. They use what we call living off the land techniques.
Living off the land,
Hmm.
meaning like they use the tools that are already installed on the computer.
Exactly. They steal a legitimate user's credentials, log into a cloud account, and use the computer's built-in administrative tools to delete backups or export data.
So the traditional antivirus doesn't stop them because they aren't installing a virus. They're just acting like an administrator.
Right. That's why the question is no longer, do we have antivirus? That's obsolete. The question is, can we detect, patch, respond, and recover fast enough?
Okay, so if the spell checker is dead, what's the new standard? What does a layered defense actually look like for a smaller business?
It requires tools that look at behavior. First is endpoint detection and response, or EDR. Instead of looking at a dictionary of bad files, EDR monitors the behavior. If a normal PDF reader suddenly tries to execute a hidden script and contact a server in another country, EDR flags the behavior and shuts it down instantly.
Because it's watching what the program does, not what the program is. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Building on that, you need identity threat detection and response, or ITDR. This monitors for strange behavior with user accounts. Like, if someone logs in from New York and 5 minutes later there's a login attempt from Eastern Europe, ITDR locks the account.
Which leads perfectly into multi-factor authentication, right?
Yes. Multi-factor authentication, or MFA, is non-negotiable today. Even if an AI perfectly guesses a password, they can't bypass the physical prompt on the user's phone. Add a managed firewall and you have a modern defense.
Okay, so layered defenses, EDR, ITDR, MFA, firewalls. But let's look at the elephant in the room. If attackers are using AI to speed up attacks, and I am just a local business owner, I don't have the budget to build my own AI security system to fight back.
And you shouldn't even try. Small businesses shouldn't be building AI from scratch. They should leverage platforms that already have responsible AI baked directly into their security.
Oh, so it's like buying a car that already has the collision avoidance system installed, rather than trying to build your own radar out of spare parts.
That is the perfect way to frame it. You fight AI with AI by choosing the right managed platforms. You use advanced email filtering to spot AI-generated phishing, and endpoint monitoring where AI does the heavy lifting of filtering out background noise.
So the technology closes the response gap. And
Yep.
hey, speaking of staying ahead of the curve, just a quick reminder for you listening. New blog posts are published every Tuesday and Thursday on the CDML site. It's a phenomenal resource to keep you updated on exactly these kinds of shifts.
It really is an essential read.
Now, Kaplan's article provides a highly practical checklist for defenders, and I want to run through it because the very first thing he asks is, are your computers actually patched? And, hitting remind me tomorrow on an update is basically a universal human reflex.
Oh, absolutely. But in the age of AI, remind me tomorrow is like leaving your front door wide open overnight. And the checklist goes deeper. Are your firewalls running the latest firmware? Is your Microsoft 365 environment fully protected with MFA?
Right. He also brings up ghost accounts, former employees. You take their keys, but nobody disables their VPN access.
Those orphaned accounts are absolute gold mines, and AI will systematically test those because nobody is actively monitoring them.
Which brings us to the final point, backups. But he asks if your backups are tested. Because, you have a hard drive plugged in with a blinking green light and you assume it's safe. You don't know until you need it.
And by then, it is way too late. Modern ransomware actively hunts down backups and destroys them. If they aren't tested and stored off-site, they are virtually useless.
So running through this list patching, firewalls, MFA, ghost accounts, backups, that is a full-time job. Waiting for something to break is no longer a viable strategy.
It's not. The human friction of manual checklists is exactly why the response gap exists.
And this is where transitioning to a managed service provider becomes an absolute imperative. CDML Computer Services helps businesses move from that reactive, call us when the server's on fire model, to a proactive security management system.
Yeah, they build practical, budget-friendly cybersecurity programs focusing on prevention, detection, response, and recovery.
And look at what they manage. Network management, voice over IP, the CAS, cybersecurity compliance, especially with HIPAA regulations, cloud solutions, and integrations with Microsoft 365, Azure, and macOS environments. They handle the patching and the employee training.
They do the heavy lifting. And that leads me to a final thought I want everyone listening to ponder. AI doesn't sleep, take holidays, or clock out at 5 p.m. If the automated attacks are running 24/7 by 365, you have to ask yourself, who is actively watching your network at 2 a.m. on a Sunday?
Wow, that is incredibly sobering. If the answer is nobody, you are really gambling with your company. You might want to fix that before the next vulnerability becomes an emergency and before you end up on a website showing that you've been pawned. We invite you to visit cdml.com to schedule a cybersecurity review and subscribe to the blog.
Evolving your defenses is really the only way to survive the flash flood.
We're Jimmy and I. Thanks for listening. Till next time.